One of the counter guys went to the counter and he answers the phone and he goes, okay, 19, okay, tomorrow, all right, this is the price. Well, yeah, I guess we could do a little bit cheaper. And, hangs up the phone and looks at me, goes, high five, just made a sale. And I said, no, you didn't. I said, you took an order. You added nothing.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Faro, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Faro.
Hey everyone, today we are joined by Mark Miller, an accomplished sales leader, strategist, and team builder with more than 25 years in the construction and equipment rental industries. Mark has built his career by transforming organizations through strong leadership, process optimization, and a deep understanding of how rental businesses operate from the field to the executive level. Today, we'll be uncovering the strategies behind building high-performing rental teams, the evolving expectations of contractors, and how strong leadership and clear processes can dramatically improve operational outcomes. Mark, welcome to Beyond the Build.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, JP. Thank you.
Kind of like, the heavy set person or women, like you got to maintain everything, but
Yeah.
the power, the fluid, the tooling, the trench, and all of the specialty, that's where all the paper's made.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of the job site visit. I don't even really believe that much in the office. I like to get my boots dirty. So.
Yeah, I spent 20 years there too, 20 years plus with United. So I kind of tell people sometimes I know where the bodies on the ship are buried. I have the calluses on the hands for where I had to basically pull back the metal. But yeah, it's a different world now, like with all the tech and the AI and stuff. What happened when we had map books, right? And flip phones.
Yeah, I tell my kids all the time, we used to have a Hackstrom map. We used to have to figure out to line up your two coordinates to figure out how to get there. And she's like, I don't even know how you lived. I said, we made it. We not only did we make it, we made offspring and we kept the career, we kept the roof over the house. So we did it,
Do you remember going in? I remember going in the back of the sales office and literally taking the Thomas guides and photocopying the pages and then laminating them. And then having different binders for different quadrants of your territory. And you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. This is like before Salesforce, before any automation.
Hand me my blue binder.
Yeah, this was a tickler file of index cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Or we had our little notebook or our little notepad that we carried with us. And we couldn't read anything we wrote down.
No.
But we had it just in case.
If it was cold and flu season, all the napkins you wrote on were gone anyway. They were all stuck together. But, even going back in the day, I remember creating transparencies on a copier to do all the
so
overheads.
You do overlays?
Oh, no, overheads at meetings.
For the overhead projector. That's right. Yeah.
It was.
Yep.
Mark, you're totally dating us. We got to stop.
I'm telling you, this is why I tell the kids now or the sales professionals now, you have no idea how easy you have it. There's no room for excuses on why you can't get it done. Because compared to the way we did it back in the day, and I hate to sound like my grandparents, everything was uphill. We carried ice on our shoulders up the, 12 flights of stairs. But it really is kind of that way. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I'd even push back there because everybody's at that same playing field. So it just means that everyone has to perform at those high levels. So yes, you have all those extra tools, but everybody's using them. So now you have to use them. Otherwise you are behind and your productivity has to be 10 times what a salesperson might have been doing manually 20, 30 years ago because the tech allows them to be more productive, but now it's expected. But the tech just makes it feel lighter, makes it easier to do.
Yeah. The hard part is like Mark mentioned, where it's like, yes, you got more tools, more resources to make you more nimble and more productive. But are you using them effectively? Right. I see like information so you can email more, you can cold call more. I remember when we would pull out of the rental man system, I used to tell my reps, I was like, hey, you get coded for what's in your zip code. You didn't book the order, right? Someone gifted this to you as probably a strategic account manager, maybe a national, someone else's relationship. But run the on-rent report for the branch. Figure out what went out that morning. Drive over there and say thank you. You need anything else? Like, that's not hard to do.
So it's so funny you say this, and we could really go off topic here tremendously, but I was doing a training. I had been with Hilti 18 years at one point, and I was doing a training. We were launching a small equipment rental program, and I was doing a big training for a United branch. And I got to know a lot of the guys in there. We were all joking around a little bit. You know, they got to see, you know, despite the age difference that, you know, we're all still the same type. And, you know, and we took a break and one of the counter guys went to the counter and he answered the phone and he goes, okay, 19. Okay. Tomorrow. All right. This is the price. Well, yeah, I guess we could do a little bit cheaper. And, you know, hangs up the phone and looks at me, goes, high five, just made a sale. And I said, no, you didn't. I said, you took an order. I said, the waitress at IHOP did the same thing for me this morning. You know, I said, you took an order. You added nothing. What are they doing? What percent of the project are they on? What other trades are there? Did you have a good experience? Who can you refer me to? You know, none of that existed. You took the order.
What side of the country were you on when you were at that branch? I'm just hoping it wasn't one of mine.
It was Northeast. It was New Jersey, actually.
Okay.
It
All
was in
right.
New Jersey.
Someone else's headache.
So, but it was funny, you know, and the kid, you know, he was full of excitement. He was like, I don't know, 2 months on the job, you know, this was new and he was breaking my chops in the training a little bit, you know, and he having fun. And then afterwards we went back into the training and he literally, you know, self-effacing stood up and said, I just learned more in 10 minutes than I did in a month of like training. He goes, this is like amazing. I didn't even think you could talk to a customer like this. And I said, it's your customer. It's United's customer. You know, you can go above and beyond and do whatever you have to do to support that customer. That's what they need. And it changed the kid. He went into field sales. He does well. I don't think he's with United anymore, but he's still in the industry and I believe he does well.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. It really comes down to training. You know, like, does the ISR want to be there? Does the dispatcher, operations, field tech, do they want to be there? Or are they just like Eeyore, like, I got to come here today to this crazy place, you know, air traffic control all day long. No one sees me, but, you know, this is what we do.
Yep. You could either answer the call or you could take the opportunity, look forward to it, and build a relationship.
You know, what one time I had, and this is how the podcast goes a lot too. We just talk about, you know, war stories. But remember the movie Boiler Room?
Like the back of my hand.
Like, can you imagine if the rental counters were like that with
No.
ISRs? They were jumping over each other to like grab the phone and be like, this is my order, rather than like I had 8 ISRs on one counter one day and I walked into one of my branches and the phone's ringing and they were all looking at each other like, who's going to answer it? And I picked up the phone and I'm like, why am I grabbing this, guys? Like, I'm your AGM. Like, you guys should all have a phone to your ear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the manager and I'm like, hey, man, like, I know your door's shut in your office. Like, do you hear the phone's ringing and you got 8 guys on the counter? Like, what?
There's a whole world going on
miss
behind that
something?
door. Yeah, absolutely.
And I get it. He's inundated in emails. He's probably on the phone with somebody. But at the same time, too, I'm like, why isn't the people like incentivized or have the desire to be like, no, this is my sale?
So, and there's one word that describes this whole thing, and there's one word that fixes the whole thing, and it's culture, and it's communication. And I mean, we could throw a whole lot of one words out there, but they all correspond to why are you here? What are you doing? The biggest problem I find with most companies is they start training on a platform of product introduction, features and benefits, all great stuff we need every day, but nobody starts off saying, why are we here? Why would we have to address this type of issue? What problems have happened? Start at 0.0 on all of your training, no matter how parochial it may sound, and you will create a fully understandable workforce. Because if you don't do it, then you get people that are lost in the weeds, and it's like they can't really fully commit because they don't understand the origin. If you're selling dock seals for a warehouse, why do you think you need a dock seal? Well, because when a 53-foot trailer backs in and it's raining, it's now a 53-foot water slide. So that can either all come in a warehouse or you can divert it. Why is that important? Well, product damage, product efficiency, safety in the workplace, slip, trip, and fall. You can just kind of go crazy with the reasons why. And once it clicks in, now I could put A to B. I just got to move B to C, get to C to D, and you could start that path. And when you do that, you have a lethal sales professional that is going to really work with your customer very well.
I think I already sense the direction here is that there's going to be a lot of sales transfer and sales tips here in this.
This is how it'll be JP too, because like, and I'm gonna also respect the fact that JP is getting over a really bad head cold, so I'm sure his throat is hurting, and I'm gonna make it easy, even though I talk a lot as well too, so he doesn't have to strain. But JP and Mark, you'll back me up on this. Mark. You get a couple rental guys in a conversation, dude. It's like watching the alpha betas and Revenge, and they're just okay. Let's. This is raw throwing chairs. Things are everywhere.
Perfect.
No, but it's one of the things that you talked about, Mark, and like the culture, right? Because rental is fast paced. I tell the guys when we started Faro, like our shippers, our customer rental, they need to make decisions in the series of a traffic light. Like if you're holding on to things, and that's the hard thing about tech's like, oh, we'll log your ticket and we'll get back to you in 2 weeks, when no, the job's done. And when JP, you first were out in the field, like you came over obviously from the movies and you've done some, marketing and tech stuff. JP was delivering equipment because he started in sales for us. And Mark, remember like when we first got in and people would say, hey, go deliver this hydrostatic test pump, or go grab the under wonder. And I'd be like, JP, go deliver the concrete stretcher. And he's like, okay, like
I'm on
those are actually real pieces of equipment and what's not.
I have seen on job sites, I have seen a lot of initiation, and I've actually participated in some of the initiation as well. And, it's to me, that's actually also part of the culture. As long as it's done in a fun way, we could all laugh at the end. It's not a matter of laughing at someone at their expense. But I've had somebody change the colors of the boosters, and dip, hundreds of them into a different color paint because, we said it was an OSHA guideline now. And halfway through, we stopped and, we went out and had a cup of coffee afterwards and, and apologized, but had fun and said, hey, you're in, we really like you. And this is a great thing. I've seen people try to start gas saws by running the blade across the ground to see if it was going to start that.
Get the
and I'm like, this poor kid's going to have a heart attack,
I had a story of one guy for me, super outgoing. I mean, he was a hustler, right? And he was always wanting to do more at the branch, right? And I know he's going to watch this podcast because him and I, we spoke recently, and learning the system, learning how to do orders. And, the first time he cut a PO, he came to me, he's like, boss, I ordered all the discharge hose for all the trash pumps in building 2, full pallet, got it done. I was like, perfect, dude. I'm all, what kind of ends did you do? Did you like empty or like cam lock? He's like, I ordered them all with cam lock. I'm like, nah, that ain't gonna work, dude. So he took the initiative to order all this 2-inch hose. And I think that it was the discharge hose, but he ordered the wrong end. So all this hose was coming with cam lock. But it was like, and he's like, did I do something wrong? I'm like, you know what? We can fix this. The fact that you took the initiative to know that our inventory was down, that we were going to need this. Like, I'm not worried about getting the hose swapped out. What I'm worried about is a customer comes in after the rain and we need to get 1,000 feet out. And we're like, yeah, we only got 125 feet. What do we do? And now all of a sudden we're scrambling. 2 sales reps are going over to the hose guy to see if they can put it together, to do the rental. And then everything just turns into chaos.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
it's funny.
It's our industry. And
and it's a hands-on industry. It has to be a hands-on industry. And that's the fun part of the industry is a hands-on industry, I walked off a job site with a fairly new sales rep. He's definitely D2ing. He's having a lot of issues just keeping up with the pace of the incoming calls and the text messages and the WhatsApp and everything. And 3 seconds later, I thought I was walking across some mud, and it turned out to be a 1.5 foot hole. So, I got snowy, slushy, frozen water going through my boots, and I'm covered just up to my calf in mud. And he's like, "Oh my God." I go, "It's all right. It's Thursday. It's no big deal. Kick it off." And we had a great meeting on a job site. We got key contacts. We created relationships. It's a win. This is ancillary. It washes off. Don't worry about it. Move
Yeah.
on.
Plus, you look like you there. You don't all clean like an inspector. You're not
Yeah.
going to try to sell payroll or anything. It's like,
No.
oh, okay. Yeah. You look
Yeah.
like you belong here.
Yeah, absolutely. Get dirty, have fun with it. This is, we create stories that are great to tell at the fire pit on Friday nights, and every day of the week it's like that, whether it's an office situation, whether it's a field situation, a happy customer, a not so happy customer. And we all deal with them every day, so it's fantastic,
Nice. And your background. So obviously you spent time at Makita and Hilti and other rental companies. And right now you're currently leading the charge for the sales and growth strategy of the rental company you're currently with, right?
Correct. Complete Equipment Rental based out of New Jersey.
Yep. And then you're also ARA you're one of the board
Correct.
members there, correct?
Correct. For the New York board. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So from your perspective, like, what's changing in your eyes in terms of how sales is looking at opportunities, how operation is trying to get lean and more efficient? Like, do you still feel there's this push-pull or this tension relationship between sales and ops, or are things starting to be more balanced?
No, I think there's always going to be tension between sales and ops. And if you look at the job descriptions, there are very simple reasons why. If you understand the reasons why, it will help you create an explanation of the situation where both parties can agree, right? Whether it's a pricing scenario, whether it's a delivery scenario, whether it's a product selection scenario, if the customer has to have a newer type of equipment because the job is sensitive, or they have to have tire socks because it's a new floor and maybe we don't have any and we have to buy some, or we didn't cost that, and things of that nature. Once you have a strong line of communication with operations, everything else can fall into place. So we kind of have to do double, triple duty sometimes in regards to the communication piece. But if we execute that well, then it should start to decrease and minimize the problems and bottlenecks.
And I think one of the big things that I learned in my career is, establishing and then managing the expectations. Perfect example is I used to make sales reps ride with the drivers for 2 weeks prior to be booking their first order and telling them that's why cross streets are important. Like, you try to make a U-turn at 7 a.m. in a 53-foot semi, like, there's a reason why I asked you guys to get the cross streets and not just one point of contact, but 2 points of contact on the job, so that our driver can drop something off and then get back for the second load
And
that
do
you
that,
also wanted at 6 a.m.
and try that in Brooklyn, New York, or the Bronx. And it's,
No.
now your streets are, you can't even turn a horse, so it gets more and more difficult. And it's funny you should say that. Recently, a couple of the leaders, our operations leader and our CEO, visited with another rental house that through a personal relationship in Miami. And they came back and they were so exhilarated. And they said, we have to have our salespeople come in and do post-rent inspections and things of that nature. And we have to do this and we have to do that. These are great ideas we saw. And I looked at that and I said, that's a brilliant idea. I love that. And we just not only implemented it, we just completed it, where all 7 salespeople in our field came in for 2 days to do post-rent inspections. They were recertified safety training. We did aerial rescue with two booms up in the air, one dead, and one not. And it was good. And all the sales reps came out of it and they all said, this was absolutely fantastic. And one of them, who's kind of a senior guy, we were waiting for a safety trainer to come in, and a truck pulled in, and the truck had about 10 scissors on it. And I said, let's go help him take the scissors off. And he kind of looked at me for a second. This guy's got 20 years in experience in the business. And he froze a little. And I said, let's do this. And we started backing the scissors out, and he's having difficulty. I said, a little rusty, huh? He goes, I need practice. And I said, we all do. And that's the beauty of this. This is not a got you. It's not a punishment. This is a opportunity that we now get to showcase to our customers what we really do know and how we can help them out. And it was 7 over 7. All the response and feedback came back fantastic. It was great.
That's 100%. Because again, as the more we elevate in technology, we're still a relationship-based business. And people buy from who they like and who they trust. If you don't even know what the control box is on the scissor, like do you selling out of a catalog? Do you even know how this stuff even works?
So when a customer called up and said, I just got this scissor lift, it's not holding a charge, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I said, check the batteries. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, is there water in the batteries? I said, you've had this lift on your site for over a month. And he goes, no, I got to do that. I said, why don't we do that together? I said, bring the phone over. We FaceTimed. He took the caps off. He goes, yeah, there's no water in there. I said, let's get some distilled water, put it in there, and your batteries will charge. And he turned around and he goes, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never even known that. I said, well, it's okay. Now you do, Save the service call, save the disgruntled customer, save doing a swap, right? Because that costs a fortune, right? And now all of a sudden we have a happy customer who actually knows we know what we're talking about.
Oh, and as the industry advances too, remember, so some of the Bomag rollers, they started putting seat calibrations on there, right? And so you couldn't start it, and well, it's not starting. I'm like, are you sitting in the seat? No. Well, you gotta sit down, because last thing you want to do is just have something rolling, you engage it and no one's in it. So I'm like, no, it needs enough weight. Are you standing up? And they're like, I didn't know. And there's so many things that are.
This is not your Jeep. You're going to auto start in the morning to warm up your seats before you get in it. It's a little different. It's a little different.
And speaking of seats, based on, you're talking about inspections, we used to have an RVP. And again, some people thought it was a little bit harsh, but he would bring people out of the branch, even when we had admins, and be like, what do you think about this? Is this rental ready? And she's like, well, why is there a rip in the seat? Right? She was like, I wouldn't, and so he was like, exactly. Because a lot of the techs, everybody like, well, that's just what happens. Or backhoes when, the underneath the arm is all caved in like a V because the buckets are slamming, yeah, it is what it is. Someone that's in an office are like, is this damaged? It's like a totally different lens. And you think about it, does your customer have that same expectation? Or are they just like, yeah, here comes the crappy rental equipment. I hope it works. And you're like, that's your brand.
And let's beat it up because it looks like garbage, so we may as well treat it like garbage, And I've always said it's I've done a lot of traveling in past careers, nationwide, a little bit global, and the one thing I can always relate to is every time I rented a car, from whatever rental agency I used at the time, the car came out beautiful. It was delivered, right there, ready. It was clean. If it was not clean, it was maybe water on it because it was just washed 5 minutes ago. And that's a big thing. And I said, could you imagine going to Florida with the family to Disney and they show up with a 1987 Ford Windstar with a black bag over the back window and a donut on the tire? Are you going to accept that as a rental? No. You want something new. Society today is changed. Everyone wants the newest product. They want the cleanest looking product. Even if you just run, I used to tell people, even if you take a little WD, put it on a rag and run it down the cord of the breaker and then put it back on the shelf, someone's going to grab that cleaner cord tool first before they grab anything else. It's perception. So why don't we head that off at the pass and create a better rental end user experience for the rental customer by making sure everything is clean and it looks good. I'm not saying we're going to wash everything completely before it goes out, but let's try and make it look as good as we possibly can.
And I think that's one piece of the puzzle, obviously the service piece, is really what I think makes or break you, right? I think, rental in some form or fashion is a bank, right? They don't really make anything. It's just rinse, repeat, and product and service. And, people ask me hey, you spent your career with one rental company. How come you didn't jump around and do everything like the industry does? And I was like, well, number one, the company's been great to me and gave me a lot of opportunity. And the amount of resources that I had, my ability to have more techs to service and more iron to push out. So when there was a service call, I had more bullets, I had more ammunition, I had more, resources to be able to be nimble and come up with the solution and not be part of the problem. But then also understanding too, as we know, some companies get really big and they become machines, and machines they lose that personal touch where, if you're a local rental company, regional, like, people, and the phone call at 7 o'clock at night is going to get answered. It's not going to go to an automated dial. And, hopefully somebody cares enough, but it goes back to those service. Like, how are you taking care of your customer? Right. And, I want to ask you too, like, what is your team's doing now? We all run into the emergency scenarios where, hey, shit happens. Okay. We delivered a light tower out to you and a breaker popped, or a generator failed and we just dropped it. And now all of a sudden the customer's like, hey, I need this. I need it right now. I know it's broken. Like, how fast can you get it to me? Is it going to be 4 hours, 4 days? Right. What do you think most rental companies are doing best practice when the shit hits the fan and they got to do a turnaround in, let's say, 2 hours or less of moving something from the branch or multiple branches to the end user? What do you think is their go-to procedure?
So I'll tell you what our go-to procedure is and what's been working very well. And I condition all the customer meetings around this sentiment. And the sentiment is, if the machine goes down, we have someone in the office that can either A, help you navigate the repair right then and there on the spot, whether it's, troubleshoot it, or B, if you don't want to get dirty and you don't want to do that, then set up a service call and we're going to get to you and, as fast as we can. Everyone has X amount of service people in the field. Everyone has territories that expand way past that. So not everyone is going to be able to get that 2-hour service if they want, but I give you the option. And if you don't mind getting into the machine a little bit, maybe we can help you uncover the sensor that wasn't sat on correctly, or the key is in the wrong position and that's why it's not going, or there's no water in the battery, or something simplistic that we can help you troubleshoot. You could take care of it in the field and be operational within minutes. If you don't want to do that, then unfortunately we're going to have to wait a little bit of time to get somebody there.
Yep. I'll give you one more scenario too. It's a little bit difficult. Hey, I need 2 breakers and I need steel. Okay, fantastic. You send them out. You send the oval collar steel instead of the round.
Yeah. So, obviously sourcing, obviously relationship and community within the company is going to help you always to make sure you have a buddy system out there, somebody you can contact locally. And sometimes if you have to really think out of the box and there's no available opportunity, let's go purchase it. Let's go get it. Let's do whatever we have to do to get the customer up and running if that's what we have to do. Find a supply place. We had a customer in Brooklyn, and the battery on the lift was dead. And it just got stuck on the truck. What happened is accidentally somebody didn't turn the key all the way off when they preloaded it the night before, killed the battery. So, all right, did we bring the guy back to Lakewood, New Jersey from Brooklyn, 2+ hours, and swap it out? And I said, no. Find out where he is. Find out where there's an auto parts place. Get a jumpstart pack. Get him an Uber if he needs it, and have the Uber pick him up, bring him to the supply house, get the jump pack, get back there. And I said, you're probably still under an hour. I said, we could pay for it on the phone if they don't have any currency or any way to do it themselves, and we'll take care of it. But let's minimize the effort and maximize the resolution around the time frame. And believe it or not, that's what we did, and it worked out fantastic. And we got the machine jumped. We got it plugged in, off the truck. We got it plugged in for a little bit, made sure everything was topped off the way it should be. The customer said, no problem, we'll use these instead. They got it charged, and it was seamless, and it worked out fantastic. And now, hey, big lesson for us. Now all the trucks carry jumpstart packs on them, just in case that happens. So, if you could take the negative situation and turn it into a coaching opportunity, right? And an education piece, then we could be better prepared for the next time it happens, because there's always going to be a situation that happens no one's prepared for. Always, right? Murphy's Law. We've been taught it since we were children. So, so as long as we embrace that and make an alteration for the future, I think we're ahead of the team.
Yeah. And that's one instance that you brought up. those listening that are in rental for, more than a couple years, you're like, oh, I can get my notebook out and we can sit here for 2 hours talking about all the different situations. But that's what rental is. It is, they call it 2% of the job site cost. But I can tell you, when you don't have the man lift or you don't have the reach fork and stuff, that job basically is stopped. So 2% might not look like a lot, but my analogy would be like, try to eat spaghetti without a fork, right? Fork's the smallest thing on the table, but you're going to be a mess if you try to do it any other way.
So one of the great things that I tell customers about Complete, because, you sit with a customer, especially or prospective customer for the first time. It's a new meeting. I just had one the other day with a CEO of an electrical company. Great guy. And he turns around, he goes, well, we're doing jobs out here. We're doing jobs here. What type of response time can I get for service? I said, great questions. I said, here's where I don't put the company over the customer. I put the customer over the company. That customer, that job you're working way out east, go get a local supplier. Because if it's a day, a week rental, God forbid something happens, it's going to be a delay in time and it's going to eat your lunch. And we don't want to do that. Everything else here, we can not only satisfy and support, we can prepare you for any contingencies that might come up. So he said, so you're telling me I should still give my business to them and not you? And I said, for your benefit, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And he shook my hand and he goes, I've never had any salesperson ever tell me that. And I said, I care about your business. I don't want the business to be blemished with a situation. I want you to understand the situation, understand that machines do break down. My machines break down, United's break down, Sunbelt's break down, Herc's, everybody's. It's a machine. Even if it passed post-rent inspection, we loaded it on a truck, everything was great. We took it off the truck. Your person gets in there, something goes wrong, a hose starts leaking. It's a mechanical machine. Things happen. So we can only, be best known for how fast we can clean up the milk that we just spilled on the floor and get you running as fast as we can. So I want to minimize that. To send a service guy 3 hours out, that's not going to be advantageous for you. He loved it.
And I know I respect that. I'm sure he did that, you said, based on how the feedback was. And that's the genuineness of being able to simplify complex situations, make people feel better about the decisions they need to make, but do it genuinely. And be like, hey, this is what I would do if I was you. Because at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, this is our teams, right? Are we adding to the problem? Or are we help creating a solution?
And the old additive, the only way to eat the elephant is one bite at a time, right? So why don't we avoid the choking hazard, not try and bite off too much that we could actually chew? Let's work on a satisfactory situation for the customer so we can all eat at the table for a long period of time.
So from an industry standpoint, I want to ask you, because let's call a spade a spade. Rental takes a lot longer to adopt new things than some other industries. We're creatures of habit, even though we've innovated a tremendous amount in the last decade, a tremendous amount. The elephant is like, hey, we still got to eat it one bite at a time, but we're still kind of using our old manual saw. And so I'm going to pivot to like new opportunities, new resources that are outside of the box thinking, right? So when I created Pharaoh, I was running into the same situations that you guys are seeing. Hey, there's something happened that was out of our control. We want to make sure that the wrench time for our customer stays high. They don't leave a job site. How do I create a solution based on my limited resources to take care of my customer? Well, we had to basically challenge third-party hauling, that's a bad line on our P&L. We have trucks, we have resources. Why are we basically spending money on what we have today? And I'm like, okay, so my scenario was San Francisco, flew in, took an Uber to a job site. You'll know this because you were in small equipment. Mechanical contractor walks up and says, hey, I need a 161 hoghead, right? Gear threading machine. You guys got one. And I was like, yeah, we got one. It's in Concord. 14 miles of crow flights, so similar to what you're dealing with in Jersey. Called up the branch mall. Got it? Yep. When can you get it? Tomorrow at noon. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. Guy's like, I'll send one of my laborers, union labor, $90 an hour. It's going to take him 3 hours to get there and back. And I was like, why don't we just Uber this thing? And then I was like, sales done. Okay. Then my ops brain's like, well, think about this. Uber's not going to get out of the vehicle. If they do, I'm hoping he's wearing pants, maybe shorts, sandals, holding a Taco Bell cup. And do I really want to give them a $6,000 piece of equipment? And if I do, are they going to let him within 3,000 yards of the job site? I was like, yeah, good concept, not executable. So that's when I said, all right, instead of putting stuff on the back of the poop deck or calling a tech in or telling a sales rep, hey, where are you at? Are you done with this customer meeting? Can you run back to the branch and grab this because your customer needs it? I was like, guys, what are we doing here? We can crowdsource this model, right? Even the battery, the customer's like, hey, no fault to you guys, take care of it. You had your solutions. Maybe we weren't around and we're not in that area. But even the customer having to leave the job site to go somewhere to pick up a battery, he's like, I could have got 7 other things done. And at the end of the day, the fare to shot it over there was like $80. You're like, the opportunity, and I got the customer that stuff within like 30 minutes. He's like, you got all my business. So do you still feel like the industry is open and receptive to, let's say, indicators, markers on the P&L that are historically bad delivery recovery? Or do you think there's an opportunity where we can get, I'm calling myself this, some of us older dinosaurs who have now notched our way to higher job level titles that don't work in the business anymore, to start giving our team members and saying, hey, you know what? It does make sense. Go ahead and do this. And when I'm in the MOR, I'm not going to chastise your manager on why this line item on your P&L is higher than the budget forecast.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And my answer and why I'm really excited to be here at Complete is because we're small enough to make those changes that you just described. And unfortunately, the larger companies are not. And the protections a larger company puts in place in the eyes of a sales rep, inside salesperson, logistics person, maintenance, mechanic support, they feel these companies have everything locked in, all the big three, right? They think this is the best place to be, the safety, security, right? But they're also confined and controlled by the resources put around them, where I think the smaller companies can say, hey, if it makes sense to this person and this person, just do it. And I probably shouldn't say this. I don't scrutinize the P&L when it comes to the short-term picture. I look at the long-term. I'm re-renting a machine right now for a customer that we've lost some market share from 2025 from 2024. And with everything they have in the pipeline for 2026, not only can we get it back, we can grow it by 25%. So my re-rent is probably going to cost me several $100s, depending on how long they do it, until I get a machine off rent that I can get over and swap that out. And it took me 3 seconds to make that decision. 3. And I supported it. And I wrote an email, said, let's do it. I understand we're going to lose a few bucks right now, but we're going to gain a tremendous amount later. The larger companies, and this, they cannot do that unless they have 7 levels of approval. And then you're still going to have some sort of VP or EVP or GM say that's going to cost us. We're not going to do that, and we're going to lose that opportunity. But that opportunity you lost now expands to the customer loss, and that's what you don't want to happen. So I think customer, long-term, big picture. Then I micromanage the small pennies and nickels, because if you're catching pennies in front of you, you're losing dollars behind you.
Yeah, and sometimes it totally does. And sometimes in the same organization, but in different divisions. Like I'll take, for example, core gen rent to power, HVAC. Okay. A 45 kVA generator is a 45 kVA generator, but your customer is really different, because if you rent it to a municipality or somebody that has bid a project, and let's say they're giving government funds, they'll pay $500 delivery. And it's part of the job cost, and they've already penciled it in. A contractor that wants temporary power for 2 days, they're like, I'm not paying more than $75 delivery. It's like literally the same freaking generator going the same distance. And now the sales rep's like, oh, okay, how do I manage this between the same organization? But then, and again, I was a product of this, right? We need more fleet. We need more drivers. Okay. We leased our fleet. We didn't buy our fleet. So we're like, oh, great. We have all these resources. Well, guess what? COVID hit. Now I'm paying for all these trucks. I'm still in the lease agreement. So I'm like, either as you're scaling up, leverage fractional resources, right? And see like in your model, like, hey, maybe this works. And you've talked to the customer and this is not a full-time solution, but it's like, hey, I got to re-rent that machine. Let's say it's a large excavator or something that you guys don't carry in stock, but they just want the easy button. They're like, Mark, this is what I need. I don't have time to go search. Can you get it? And you're like, I can get it, but I'm gonna have to re-rent it. And then the old split, you and I both know, 70-30 is okay, but it's going to cost you. And they're like, okay, as long as I know what the cost is. And you're like, now I got another source of revenue, and they don't call anybody else.
I got to tell you, Scott, you just hit a nail on the head, because what you just identified was communication versus lack of communication with the customer. And if you are in I'm going to be honest with you, I came on board with Complete 14 months ago. Okay. We were a very reactive organization. Customer called, I need a lift. You got it. Boom, done. There it is. So the proactiveness was not there. So when the CEO, who put me through one of the most extensive interview processes I have ever been through, and I've worked for multi-billion-dollar companies, it was, if I tell you how much FaceTime we had in the interview process, you'd fall off your chair. But it was over 15 hours of actual FaceTime over multiple sessions. And I loved every minute of it, because they're really digging to find the right person. And I was also digging to find the right career, so it really worked for both of us. And we discussed the shortcomings of the business, and we discussed what he wanted to do long term down the road. And, coming on board, I created a vision, that we go by, and a philosophy, and we've shared it, and we're tearing down silos, because service is different than sales, different than logistics or operations, different than finance. And I'm trying to pull them all together so we have cross communication and everyone knows what's going on. So now we have newsletters going out. I just had a truck driver approach me a week ago and said, hey, how do I become a salesperson? And I said, it's a great question. And I love that you asked that question. I said, thank you. I said, do you have interest in it? And he goes, yeah, he goes, who knows the equipment better than me? I said, I don't know. Who does? I said, what are you looking for in a career? He goes, I just want to make more money. You think I can make more money in sales than driving? And I go, I got to tell you, I think you'll have a hard time not making more if you're really motivated. If you're not motivated, you're probably not, so, but it was a conversation I didn't expect to have. It was a conversation that never would have surfaced, a long time ago. But now, because of this cross communication and collaboration, I'm starting to see more of that. So, we're expanding now into social media a little bit more. And, I tell people, let me see your Instagram. Are you following us? You should follow us. You should see the videos we have, and they're doing it, and we're watching that grow, and it's a lot of fun. But importantly, like you had said, you have to have communication. So whether it's communication with the customer or communication internally, if we are all going in the same direction, we're going to get there a lot faster than half the boat rowing in the front and half the boat rowing the opposite direction in the back. Then you're just going nowhere. So coming in the last 14 months, this is what we've really been striving to do. I'm very fortunate. I got a CEO who backs this thought process 1,000%. He's animated. He loves it. He cares. And he wants this all to succeed. And the support is there. And we're starting to see the fruit of the labor. We really are. It's very exciting.
That's awesome. And in your sphere of influence, what percentage are you seeing your competitors? Let's take the big three out that, hey, they have their positives and they have their blind spots. Being on the ARA, being in your sphere of influence, do you see percentage-wise the smaller regional players taking that type of approach that you guys have adopted, or are they still kind of, hey, this is how we do things?
I don't, sadly. I would like to see more of them doing it. Competitively speaking, maybe I shouldn't say that, but, I don't see that a lot. And I started that at Hilti when we started pushing the small equipment, and it was right before COVID, I had created this training platform. And we had a senior leader in the company who said, I don't want you training, Herc people and United and Sunbelt. That's not your job. Your job, And I said, I get it. But if we don't train them how to sell and rent small equipment, you're going to be getting multi-million-dollar chargebacks, because they're all going to call back a year or two from now and say, take all this stuff back. And, then, if you ever want to do business with it again, you're going to take it back and you give it a credit. We're not doing that. So I'm going to arm them with as much information as they need to be successful. If they're not successful, that's more on them. And that's how I created some of the relationships I have with some of the nationals and independents and cooperative rental companies. And the ones that have taken to it have really gravitated, and they've done better, because it's never really about, oh, I need a combi hammer. Okay. I need a scissor lift. Great. Here you go. What are you doing? Tell me what you're doing on the scissor lift. Tell me what's the working height? Do you really need a 19-foot lift if you only have 14-foot ceilings?
I know. I'm always where do you need your feet to be? Like,
I always say, where do you need your hands to be? Actually, that's what I always tell them. Where do you need your hands to be? So same thing, slightly different vernacular, right? So, the fun part is once you get more involved, and let's face it, most customers love to talk about what they're doing at the end of the day, right? So once you open up that Pandora's box and they start communicating on everything they're doing over the next phase of the project, and you're supporting and celebrating that they won this and you're happy for them, this is where it really gets fun, because now you can make recommendations that mean something. I had a short stint at Durante Equipment before they were acquired by Herc. And I was a VP over there of sales and marketing, and it was great. It was supposed to be a little bit of a longer term than it was, but Herc came in and made the tender offer, I think, a month after I was on board. It happens. So, but we had met with a customer, and we had a slew of these small scissor lifts, these Leonardo Bravis. And they're great. They're small. They're tiny. You could, almost, 360 turns. Like a 0-turn lawnmower. So I had said to the customer, we didn't really rent them very well, because guess why? We didn't know about them. They weren't trained on them. They didn't start off at 0.0. And that's what I did. So I met with a customer. I said, hey, when you're done with your job, what does your punch list look like afterwards? And he goes, what do you mean? If we're done, we're done. I said, no, all the repairs you got to do, from everybody crashing the lifts into the wall and the plaster and the drywall. And he goes, well, yeah, that's a gimme. I said, it's a give me because you're operating a large scissor in a tight area. What if I give you a tighter machine? Now, all of a sudden, pricing is off the table, because it's not a 19-foot lift to a 19-foot lift. It's completely different. And we wound up renting all of them within a month, and actively, and the customers were very, very enthusiastic about it. Now, we had some downtimes on some of the equipment because it was sitting for a while before we rented it, and we had battery issues, but we took care of them right away. And but the customer didn't know. Whenever we could present something the customer doesn't know exists, we win. So my sales force, some of them are new, some of them are senior, and I coach them daily. If the customer calls you for a 19-foot scissor on a job site, don't show them the 19-foot scissor on a job site. Show them the jibby articulating boom that can work on an uneven surface. Show them the glass manipulators, the smart lifts that we have, that you can not only even just do glass, but you could even do insulated metal panels for outside installation and so on. And show them all these other things. We're going to get the lift. It's no big deal. That's why they called us. But let them know we are more specialty than we are commodity. And I think that goes far with the customer.
I think it does. And what you guys are doing from a culture perspective and the communication, we can have fun with this. Customer wants to just get like, hey, give me my 19, and and I'm busy at, again, timing has a lot to do with it, and you got to read the room. But at the same time, you're there to have a conversation, develop a relationship. When you say hey, I can get you 19, that's booked, that's over, but what the hell are you doing? Well, I'm putting this. So now they open up about what they're doing and be like, dude, why don't we just use a 15? I could probably knock off a little bit of this or whatever. Well, you guys have those? Yeah, it's totally tighter. And it's now all of a sudden you're in not just a transaction, but a, what would you call it? A conversation relationship. But now wow, this guy actually is looking out for my best interest, or gal. And they do understand. And all you got to do is ask one or two more questions. And now you're having dialogue rather than an order taker that essentially AI will probably eventually be able to do. Eventually, just asking a few additional questions. Don't be a transactional rep where, like, essentially you're now out in the field and you just became a field dispatcher. That's like you're sitting in a parking lot because you can't go anywhere because your phone's blowing up. You got to enter your calls into your CRM, and you're like, I haven't moved in 2 hours, so don't track my GPS.
So one of the messages I try and convey daily is transactional business is not bad. I love transactional business. It's fast, it's flexible, it's easy, but it's not the way we lead. The way we lead is through relationship building, relationship selling, solution selling. That's really where we want to be. I'll take still transactional in between. That's fine, but we have to be able to steer the customer to the right way. I'll if you got a minute, I'll tell you a great story. Years ago, when Home Depot first blew up into the markets, in the 80s, they had licensed plumbers in the plumbing division. They had roofers working in roofing. So when you had the faucet in your hand, the person there was trying to tell you and teach you how to install it. And it was great. And then they were saying, don't forget about the pipe dope, or don't forget about the thread tape, and don't forget about this. And they were helping you with your shopping list, and you didn't even know you needed that help. But when you got it, you went back to that store. You went back looking for that person specifically. And that's what I want to emulate. That's what I want the team to want, is that the customer calls them and says, hey, I want to pick your brain for a little bit. That's the win. Anyone can take the order.
And I would preference this to companies that are scaling and companies that have already scaled, right? The hardest thing is to get the right people on the ship. We've talked about this in previous podcasts. I call it the 3 R's, right? Recruit, retain, and reward, right? Like does your company have a good model to recruit and retain the talent? And what are you doing to reward them for their efforts? Because we see it all the time. We've seen in the industry for a long periods of time where we got good people. They move from position to position, let's say inside to outside. They're really successful. And then we're like, hey, we're changing the territory, or, hey, we're changing the commission structure, or, hey, we don't have the fleet. And then they're all pissed off. They lose their motivation. And then they're like, well, hey, guess what? I'm wearing a new shirt.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
So now you're like,
listen, every new situation we deal with is like going into a dark tunnel, right? We don't know what it is. But if there's a flashlight at the end of that tunnel, it makes it a little bit more palatable to walk in, and it gives you a little bit more confidence to explore, right? So that comes back to the communication piece all over again. So when I meet with a candidate, I let them know the good, the bad, the ugly. I don't just paint the beautiful picture. I paint the reality. And at the end of the day, I don't care what type of structure you have, what type of primed organization you are, the greatest AI technology, everything, you're going to have a bad day. And here's what that bad day is probably going to look like. And you're probably going to be out of stock one day. And here's the remedy for that. And you're going to have a machine go down on a job site that can't go down on a job site. And that's going to happen. And your phone's going to blow up one day. And it's just going to happen. So if you just take the deep breath and, kind of fractionally go after each of the items, it's like crossing it off the list, and that's the reward at the end of the day. I had a fairly new salesperson, industry guy, but, fairly new with Complete, only on board for a couple of months. And we went to a job site yesterday, and he said, I think this is somebody I want to talk to. He was pulling up in a pickup truck. And, of course, two sales guys start walking up to somebody in a pickup truck, and you could see the guy's face already was like, I don't need this, I mean, it's a normal thing, right? So I looked at him, and he rolls down the window and goes, what do you need? I go, I don't need anything from you. I want to pet the dog in the back seat. I said, that dog is beautiful. And he had a beautiful Weimaraner sitting in the back seat, and he goes, okay. I said, what's his name? And I just started asking about the dog, and I'm petting the dog. I'm rubbing his ears. The dog's licking my face, and, the whole thing. And I look at him. I go, by the way, I'm Mark with Complete. And he turns to me and he goes, oh, all right, I'm Joe. And, we're doing this. And this guy just opened up, because I didn't start with the sales pitch. I started with the human factor. And all of a sudden, he's like, well, make sure you go see this guy. He gives me his name and his phone number. Go see this guy. Go see this guy. In fact, that guy, he's over there. You're going to talk to him. He's going to need some boom soon. I said, fantastic. And that's, to me, that's the win. You know, that's what warmed my feet, even after I stepped into the puddle and got him soaking wet. Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
That's
the win
awesome.
for
I
me.
mean, what you guys are building at Complete, I call it progressive disruption,
Yeah.
and you're not creating fire, right? But you're doing it in a way where it's like, number one, your people feel valued and trust that, hey, we got good leadership. They're hopefully having fun what they're doing. And you're changing the industry to saying, hey guys, we can go back to where it's a relationship and we can communicate, sometimes under promise, over deliver, we hope, right? But what you guys are doing there, I mean, I really love hearing this, coming from, again, nothing negative about big companies. They're fantastic, right? But I still hear from people that, work there and they're just like, it's another initiative and it's another this, and they're losing that sense of, hey, we're really here to create solutions. Like, no, you're here to basically pull the slot machine and make sure a nickel comes out. Like that's.
But you know what, Scott? Again, hitting it on the head. If you don't have a translator that speaks corporate and can internalize it down to the field, because the field doesn't speak PowerPoint, right? Not at the executive office. They don't. And that's where you get lost in confusion. That's where you start off at level 7 instead of 0.0. So if you could break down the initiative on why we're doing this, what it means to the company, how we're all going to mutually benefit down the road, is it going to help us today? No, it's not going to help us today. We're shaping tomorrow today, but that's going to be tomorrow. If we were I Dream a Genie, we can go, and it'll be done. But we can't do it that way, right? So realistically, this is why we're putting these steps in place. Does everyone agree or disagree? Now, of course, we all want it now, right? That's our, today. I mean, even one click on Amazon, you get it in 5 hours sometimes. It's just insane. What a model. But, we're not there. But at least if the team knows, I'm giving them the flashlight to go into the dark cave. And that I think is where people embrace it long term and say, okay, I think we're doing the right thing.
And it starts from the leadership, right? If you're looking at yourself right now and say, well, I don't have the job title to make an influence, I would challenge you to recalibrate your perception and go, sometimes the best leaders don't have the job title. And moving a person into a manager role because they have tenure sometimes is not, the best move, but it's like, control your sphere of influence. If you're a driver that wants to be a sales rep, think about it. You have on the job training. You literally get to interact with a customer, and you know what? Your customers might start saying, when's Joe going to deliver my stuff? Like, your name will get out there, and some people like, dude, Joe's got a ton of customers.
Think about how many, global multi-billion-dollar companies are out there where the CEOs started in the warehouse. Think about it. It's a lot more than you think, and I've done research on that, and it was staggering, and I've relayed that message over to my CEO, who I report to, and whenever you can promote from within, I think you create a longevity and a journey within the company that is they're all the right people in the right seats, and that's what you hope. And if you're not the right person in the right seat, that's okay too. I can help you transition to something that maybe does fit you perfectly, or I could help guide you to where you want to be. Either which way, it's not an adversarial thing. It doesn't have to be a disruptive type thing. It could be a supporting thing. Even if you're going to wind up leaving the organization, if you find something better for you, good. I'm happy for you.
And I think that's a perfect way to land this plane right now. I know we've been at it for an hour. We want to be respectful of your time coming into the weekend. We appreciate everything that you guys are doing, how you're advocating for the industry and changing it. We're trying to do the same thing with getting the culture to shift to different resources rather than, the same way. So I think if we tag team and continue to stay in our lane appropriately and, leverage each other's network, I think we can do some really good things within the industry, help it grow.
So too. I think so too. And I think the best part is we could provide a strong service and a strong level of support for our customers who need it the most. Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us.
My pleasure.
Yep.
I'm always here. Just let me know.
Thanks for saving my voice. Just let me sit back and listen.
Yeah, JP, you got to calm down. You're dominating the conversation.
Yeah. No, it's fun
JP,
to listen to you guys.
all right.
There's so much experience. Right. Just sharing those stories. So there's some good ones in there for sure.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Yep. Let's get out of here. Have a good weekend, and really appreciate you all taking the time today.
You got it. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thank you.
You as well.
Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Faro is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at faronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.